what did you talk about?
Like how nerves can get to people and like how they don't perform well because of how much pressure they're feeling.
Do you ever feel pressure?
All the time.
Like right now? This is something you're not used to doing, right? Whenever there's something you're not used to doing, it kind of adds a little extra pressure, doesn't it? So how do you learn to deal with pressure?
I say like that nervousness is just excitement in its own way. Like, have you ever seen somebody like a news reporter asking like athletes at like the Super Bowl or World Cup or anything like that?
Yeah.
Like they usually ask, "Were you nervous?" Right?
Yeah.
They usually say, I was excited."
Yeah.
They interpret it as excitement instead of nerves because they're practically the same.
They are almost exactly the same. I love that. That's a really cool lesson. So, how do you consider yourself on the soccer field? Do you consider yourself one of the best, average?
Definitely one of the best.
Definitely. So, what do you do to create that? What gives you the confidence?
I mean, I proved to myself that I worked hard for 6 straight years.
Yeah.
And I say I am the best, and I become one of the best.
Nice. So how hard do you work?
Every day.
Every day. Do you take a day off once in a while?
Once in a while.
Yeah. So how many days do you practice?
At least 6 days a week.
At least 6 days a week. So, do you think that would be important in other things in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important to be consistent? Are there soccer players that don't practice 6 days a week?
Absolutely.
And what do they do?
They don't become great. That's why you don't know about them, like.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We'll just keep going. There's a virus and threat protection.
I better not get COVID from this.
Yeah. We're virus free. So, I can't remember what I asked, but does anybody have any questions for Donnie?
Where did you get your work ethic from?
Your mom?
She
Both of
works
them,
hard
right?
too.
Your mom's pretty driven. So, Diane?
So how far do you wanna go with,
As far as I possibly can.
professional Olympics?
Professional USWNT is great as Mallory Swanson and Alex Morgan combined.
That's awesome. And have you found it important to get extra training or help, or do you just go along with whatever your team does?
Usually I practice with Eric Holt, a professional soccer player for Real. I did that yesterday and I'm gonna do it on Friday again.
Yeah.
And usually most of my team doesn't do that, but I still do the trainings that my team does.
Yeah.
Just to get that extra level.
Nice. That's awesome.
How did you come in contact with him?
My dad again.
Tell them what you do before your games.
So he actually created an affirmation card that I read, and I just it's like, I'm a consistent and powerful soccer player, and like I describe what it's gonna look like on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does it look like what's the description? What is it
So I'm
going into a game?
I'm gonna be constantly getting better and upping my game, and yeah,
That's awesome. What position do you play?
everything besides defense and goalie.
Wherever they need you?
Yeah.
Awesome. Other questions?
So Delaney, to talk a little bit about speed and agility and how important that is on the soccer field.
Okay, so say you get a pass from one of your teammates and you're completely on sides. You need to use that speed to run and go to goal and take a shot and hopefully score. And like agility, like dodging those defenders, getting past the defenders, using speed to do that will working those together will just definitely help your game.
And is that part of your practices is working on that speed and agility?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have to be the fastest person on the field to be the best?
No. You just have to be willing to work your hardest.
What do you think is the most important thing going into the game?
Being fearless.
Being fearless. So where do you play the game? Do you play it on the field
In
or?
your mind.
Yeah.
Before the game even starts, I'm gonna say I'm gonna win this game, and I'm gonna do everything I can to win this game physically, but I already know I won it mentally.
Wow. You guys taking notes? I know Derek is. Any other questions?
I think this is pretty cool. Tell them about your room. Tell them about the wall in your room.
So in my room, I have this shelf that goes all around my room, and every goal that I score, I put a soccer ball about this big and the date that I've scored it, and I hang it around my room, and I've gotten off my wall, so I'm around 80-ish, I think. So
She has this visual reminder. Every day she wakes up, she sees the goals, and every day she goes to sleep, she sees the goals.
And then I have my medal, trophy stuff on that same wall, and then posters and stuff like that.
Would you consider yourself totally committed to what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely.
Any of you question that? Pretty neat, huh? Other questions? What do you do for fun, Delaney?
Soccer.
Are your friends all play soccer, or do you have friends outside of soccer?
I have friends outside of soccer, like school. I have not a big friend group where everybody does different things and we share everything about our stuff.
Yeah, that's super neat. And how old are you now?
11.
11. Super proud of you.
Thanks.
Thanks for taking the time to share. Does anyone else have any questions? Give it up for Delaney. We've been privileged to watch Delaney grow up. And let me ask you this: what did you learn, or what could you emulate from her soccer game into your real estate career, or really anything that you're doing in life? What would be a lesson?
Consistency, being
Consistency.
fearless, having goals, visual goals. so you can
Consistency,
manifest them.
fearlessness, visual goals. Good.
What a awesome young lady you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam and Kyle.
Make sure you're having fun while you're doing it.
Yeah. I guess I didn't really get into that. You enjoy what you're doing, don't you?
Yeah.
I can tell. You don't do it that often if it's not something you enjoy. Thanks, Pam.
The game is one in your mind, and our jobs we accomplish our jobs in our minds,
Right.
However, as we always say, the mark is between your ears.
Right.
And so it's all mental.
It's all mental. Okay, thank you. I agree. What else? Anyone else want to comment?
I love and she didn't talk as much about this as she did in the newsletter article that she wrote, but what we feel when we're nervous and what we feel when we're excited. And in the article, and I'll bring a copy of the newsletter to the office, you can read it. But in the article, she talks about, what do you feel when you're nervous? Does your heart rate go up? Do you
Sweaty hands.
do you get sweaty hands? But then,
Anxiousness.
yeah, anxious. What do you feel when you're excited? Does your heart rate go up? It was just really interesting. Your body's reaction to being nervous and being excited are very similar. They're the same thing. But these athletes
You
have
can use it to feed off.
exactly, yeah. So it has the power. Your interpretation has the power to enhance your performance, whether it's in athletics or business or whatever, or to crush it. And I just thought it was a really cool article. So.
Awesome, thank you, thanks, Derek. What else, Keith?
I liked when you asked her, are you committed? And she couldn't get it out quick enough, absolutely. But the way she said it, if we could talk to our clients that way, they would absolutely work with us just the way you said it, with conviction. And it's believable. I wouldn't question that you're committed at this point.
Right.
So sometimes it's the way you say it, is just as important as anything else.
Super, super important, thank you.
And, I really appreciate your affirmations that you say to yourself. I think most of us grew up, we always looked for affirmations externally. We didn't really look on the to us. And one thing I've learned from being with Exit is you really do have to believe in yourself, and those affirmations need to come from within, and I think those are most important than any that you're gonna get from the outside.
Well, amen to that, yeah. If you're waiting for the world to validate you, it could be a lonely, a lonely trip, although we do get some of that, right? And that's really awesome, like when somebody brings you a gift unexpectedly. I mean, there are definitely times
Just a charity.
that lifts you, but to be consistent is, you know, you're just doing your thing, you know, you're creating that for yourself, because that's the most important person that talks to you is yourself. Yeah. Perfect. What else? Any other comments? Scott?
You know, listening to Delaney talk about like playing the game in her mind and like winning the game in her mind, you know, before she got on the field reminded me a lot of when I was doing my training to become an airline pilot, because
Yeah.
we chair fly a lot, so we call it chair flying, right? Where we
Which is basically fake flying. Right.
It's sitting there and visualizing like everything from pre-flight all the way through the flight, all the way until you pull into the gate at the very end, right? Because there's your checklists and your flows and you know, radio communication and, you know, timing of programming the flight management system and all of this. And so, like, even before I got in an airplane, right, we share, like, they would have just basically a fake dashboard. And we would sit there and we would just go through the motions, right? And then that was part of it, but then even for me, like, I can remember preparing for my personal tests, you know, and my exams and my, what do they call them, check rides, where I would sit there and I would close my eyes, and my wife even remembers to this day, this was actually when I was flight instructing. Well, I would sit there and I would verbalize everything, right? So I wouldn't keep it in my head only, but I would verbalize it. And I would be like, okay, trim, right? Because you're like trimming the aircraft to take the pressure off the controls so that the airplane's flying itself, and so you're not using your force, right? Either pulling or pushing to keep the pitch the same. And so like you're constantly adjusting and trimming it so that the airplane's flying by itself rather than you like holding the yoke. And I just thought that was really, really awesome and really applicable, because like chair flying was what got me through aviation. Like it got me through my exams, my check rides. I mean, chair flying was so powerful for me, and Delaney, I'm sure, can attest to how powerful it is in her performance on the field.
Yeah.
It's like
When you know going
so
in,
powerful.
what that process looks like,
Yep.
what you're gonna have to be doing.
And, you know, we do the same thing in our business. I love what Scott shared. Before I do a listing appointment, I usually try to get there 15 minutes early, but I park around the corner and I'm visualizing exactly for 15 minutes minimum how this listing is gonna go.
Yeah.
Same with a buyer presentation, how I'm going to talk to them, how it's gonna go, so that when we sit down, we're ready.
And then you adjust along the way.
Yeah.
Does the game ever go exactly the way you think it will?
No.
Right, no. Because you got these other girls that are trying to do the same thing to you that you're doing to them, right? So you never know, you have to obviously be able to adjust. Love that. Thank you. Stuff, anything else? Any other takeaways? Blaney, thank you.